us here in the first place. We've had like 4 meetings scheduled for the amphitheater programming slash fact finding, for the lack of a better description, in terms of what our vision is for what we have collectively decided the vision that we want, at least for now, our amphitheater to go in that direction. And that's more community-based, more community-minded, not focusing on 40 scheduled, high-profile type events used as money makers and a variety of other things that Jackson has gone off in that direction of. But I think we need to also take a look at some of the things that they are doing that it might be to our benefit to do, whether we actually pay for it, whether we get sponsors to pay for it, or whether we charge. So we met with the very first guy, and I'm glad we met in that order, because this guy is the original programming coordinator for Jackson's, and of course this guy has a huge background in booking events, and he knows all the ins and outs, the dynamics, how you deal with all the contracts and all that kind of stuff. So some of the things piqued our interest, but for the most part, it was the other things swirling around all of that process that caught our attention. He did get back to Rob in an email, which you have a copy of on the first page. And we'll get back to that here in a little bit. I'll just kind of explain what we have. We'll move forward with this as a brainstorming, but I can tell you for the most part, there are a lot of items that are on here that are neither going to require our attention tonight, nor done in any particular order. We just started jotting down things as he was talking. As a follow-up to that, we met with Plain Local Schools today. When we started talking about the direction we wanted to go, Brent May and Mary Bedell were in that meeting, and their eyes were wide open as we were discussing all of these issues and the possibilities of collaboratives with them as well. So they were super excited when they left here, to the point where they've already asked for a date. They want to do their convocation here on August 17th. But again, we made no promises. We just, talked about, we're not sure whether everything is going to be done. I brought up the issue of grass, which, by the way, is my biggest worry. That's my worry. I know things might get built, but to literally try to have something planned where we put a bunch of activity on that grass before it has a chance to really get mature enough to be able to remain stable. So anyhow, that's kind of what got us here. We have 2 more meetings scheduled. Let me think here now. One,
September,
well, it's one next Tuesday. We have one next Tuesday.
The construction meeting.
Yes.
Yes,
And then we have one the Friday after that.
the 20th.
Yeah, whatever that date is.
So it's Friday the 20th
Yeah.
with the partners in Grand Kills.
Yeah.
And you have one scheduled with the Y, I think that's what John
Correct.
was referring to.
Yeah, that's the 27th, I think.
Yes.
So, and we've kind of presented at these meetings, like we did today, that, we're still in the infancy, but we're to the point now where we want to start throwing this out. At Plain Partners, Rob is going to take the video of the actual, thing, the link that we
Oh,
got
that you
from the
completed,
architect.
yeah, that rendering.
And that then hopefully will generate some interest in some of the other partners. So we've already done some work to at least get us started, but there's a lot of pieces and parts to this. And I just thought, look, this list is gonna start to grow to a point where we don't wanna be overwhelmed with it. So let's get some of the knowns out now, so we can be thinking about them and how they're gonna integrate with maybe some of the newer stuff that we hear. So, my thought was that let's just present as best we can right now, the items that are on here, talk about the possibilities of some of these, but again, a lot of these we don't have to make any decisions on right now, but we need to, if for nothing else, empower other people to maybe either, do some research on, or, meet with other groups, or whatever the case is, because, and I guess the easiest way maybe to do that would be to start with the list, and just go through the list. And again, I don't want to spend a lot of time on each item, but it was just things that, as he was talking, we were just writing down. And this guy, let me see, that would be Bill Graney. Super nice guy, good personality, big community-minded guy, offered up help, offered up the possibility of doing some consulting services. As you can see in the email, these are some of the things that he has the ability to do. And he would be a super good resource for us on a limited basis, because again, it's not like we're gonna have, 30 bookings of, high-profile bands. But I think there is possibilities that we could get one or two of those types of programs,
I think
as.
when you talk about high-profile bookings, the context of that too. We're not talking national acts, but we may very well find good regional acts that are high-profile
Exactly.
around here. It's just, I think, for the sake of the public, when you talk high-profile acts,
Correct.
let's equate that to national.
Yeah, one of the things that he made reference to more than one occasion is, if we were to use his services, he will only deliver quality for us. He's not, and he told us, the first thing you wanna do when you start talking programming is forget about those people who make contact with you and say, hey, my brother's got a band, he would like to play there. Because in reality, it's like he says, if you're gonna have these and you're gonna bring people back, and then bring them back again and bring them back again, they're gonna wanna come because of the quality, not because somebody got an opportunity to demonstrate their band that nobody else had listened to. And that's another thing that this guy brings to the table is, he knows about all these people, like you say. He knows, the Bruce Springsteen guy, for example, that he said, this guy's phenomenal. And, he just comes and he does that set, and he said, believe it or not, he's relatively cheap. So those are, and you're right, none of them are gonna be,
Outside of him, like Sean Martz, who has Dusty A Productions, he's more of the Nashville scene, but that's where you pair somebody up, because with Bill or even Deal Direct, but to your point, if it's a Plain Township trustee trio looking to open up the amphitheater,
yeah,
I think that's a one and done.
we'll be lucky.
Speak for yourself, I
Yeah.
can say very well.
Hey, you may be on your own, but the three of us together,
You
there
guys
ain't
can
no
use some
I
backup.
can move my legs.
John, I
So-
I gave Rick a look, cause I think she can sing.
John, may I,
Yeah, jump in.
I did choir
expand?
in
So,
college.
what he talked about, in essence, if I can put a big umbrella over this as we get deeper into some of these bullet points, was, John mentioned it, quality. He said it didn't matter the budget with which you came to him, he understood what quality type performers we could get within a local, regional, or quite frankly, even national traveling
Correct.
group that if we timed it properly, I know it's one of our bullet points, that's why I'm hitting it. If we timed it properly, because they are already scheduled in, and I'm just gonna use the Youngstown Amphitheater, Skyler, you and I have talked about that in the past, and they may be headed to Columbus or Cincinnati the same weekend, they may swing through and play the extra set where you're not paying the lodging, the mileage, and all those other things, but the basic appearance rate, so you can get really high quality performers, as John already alluded
Yeah.
to, in a very cost-effective manner.
Well, that's, I mean, you get a national act like, and Can't South did this just, I say a month and a half, not quite 2 months ago. They had a national recording artist, can't think of his first name, Rosell, but he's done a lot of work with Garth Brooks, and
Yeah.
the schools down there did it as a
Fundraiser.
fundraiser for the arts, but the reason they went ahead and piggybacked and did that was because he was in town for somebody who had won a contest that was, backyard
Yeah.
concert, so certainly there's probably a lot of that to pick off.
The other thing I think that we would wanna call, just some conversation too, so people would start chewing on it, John, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Is, he talked about a couple different things. You'll see the very top bullet point says baby steps, and about halfway down, you'll see soft launch.
Yeah.
So what his suggestion was, based on his litany of experience and a litany of different sized arenas, is you always wanna make sure it's quality, as he said. You wanna make sure you walk before you run, and you have the opportunity to do a couple of these smaller type events before you head into a acclaimed act, whether it be regional or otherwise. And the thought was, sorry, I apologize. The thought was, I know we had mentioned Vox Audio had reached out, and they'd performed their holiday at the Square, and they were just at the Palace, it was sold out. And he knows of Vox Audio, and he said something like that would be an ideal soft launch, because you would have the opportunity to run the equipment through for the first time. You could do what he suggested, John, if I'm cutting you off, jump in anytime. A private event, when he said private, invite 200-300 people. Get them out there, test the sound system, have an actual act on the stage to see kind of how that music bounces off the buildings and bounces off the trees and bounces off the roof, and how it sounds, and then you can kind of learn what you don't know from the experience to get ready to hold some of these other acts. Am I too far off, John? Or
No, you're going right down the path that we need to go with in that soft opening, because
And then when you do your kickoff, which would be different from the soft launch, if you notice they're two separate bullet points, you've walked through with baby steps some of these things that you don't know until you encounter them, and you have the ability to correct them, so when the first time you invite a larger public to an event, it's a success, because as John said, the old adage of one chance to make a good first impression, you just wanna make that good first impression, so you get the reputation of doing it well and right to continue to bring people back for other things. Sorry, John, I didn't mean to say.
Before we get right into the music, I mean, one of our biggest logistical challenges is gonna be parking. And if that experience goes to hell in a handbasket right out of the start, even once they're over here, the rent, you're already in a foul mood. It may help the businesses have more people drinking and making money, but, I mean, right from the very get-go, so.
I can promise you, we all address that,
Yeah.
like upfront, understanding that we understand what our biggest shortcoming is well before the,
that would all be a part of
Yeah.
the invitation, if you will, to the soft opening, where we would say, here's what we want to accomplish with this. We first and foremost, we would like constructive feedback. And we have those people come that we know that we're gonna get constructive feedback from, not, you just throw it up out there and then, these people come and then they didn't like it because there was a dandelion beside where they were sitting, or, some ridiculous freaking whining thing. But parking would be one of those things where, we realize parking is an issue, we wanna challenge that. We wanna see if what we have set up would accommodate this group of people and that type of thing. So, it would put all that in perspective. But everybody that we've met with so far, we've also emphasized that more than once, that we know parking is the big issue. So, you know, we don't even have that on this list, even though we know it.
Yeah.
So that is actually one of those things that we've kind of already been working on, but I think as a part of, yeah, absolutely.
100%.
So, you know,
He just had so many incredible insights that we
Yeah.
literally sat here with writer's cramp because we had trouble keeping up with all of the knowledge that he was willing to just so freely share and openly share, to a point where he came up with something, I'll admit, I never personally would have thought of it. If you're gonna bring in an acclaimed act of any kind that you want to be happy and potentially come back, consider the idea of something as simple as purchasing a drone riser
yeah,
to accommodate that type, because so many of those acts are used to that type of amenity being on the stage they're performing on.
yeah.
I mean, it sounds really small and trite, but he emphasized it a couple different times, which is why you see it on a bullet point, because it was something that he made mention of. He made great ideas. I know, John, you mentioned, and this was your bullet point, and I don't remember it in detail, the neighborhood flyer informational survey.
Yeah. It could be incorporated into anything at all, how we wanna do it. My suggestion would be, we do simply an informational letter that goes out and we target what streets we want to go out on. So we just simply say, here are the things that are going on, here's gonna be the protocol for it. So you don't get those people who are gonna show up and say, you know, are they gonna be playing at 2 o'clock in the morning, you know, who's gonna, all those things that we've already discussed that we're not gonna do, might simply by putting all that in a letter, here's gonna be the protocol, yada, yada, yada. I think that will relieve some of the tension from some of the naysayers. But we don't have to do that either. He just said, you know, you may wanna take that into consideration.
Even get into, I mean, again, just going back to the parking, I don't wanna get too far down in the weeds, but, you know, do we end up at some point, say the side street's not here, like there's no parking on one side, because let's say there's a big attraction out here.
Oh, no, you're
And
right.
how the driveways are offset,
you're right.
you go back and out, and you're like,
Oh,
yeah, you're
see,
like,
yeah.
We do it for the Hall of Fame, that's something we do, but yeah, that's.
so there's all those
Oh,
different
no.
things, but once we get through these bullet points, ultimately, how do we lump some of these
Oh,
together
absolutely.
into work, into identified work streams, and then how do we
Yep.
assign who's going to
Exactly.
take lead on each one of the work streams, so we can bring that stuff
Oh, no,
back.
that's,
That was the
I
divide and
never
conquer.
even thought about that. but
Divide and
again,
conquer is the only way we're gonna be able to.
You know, one of the other things he brought up that was really kind of eye-opening for me, I won't speak for you, but for me was, you'll see on that list, private events, special events permission about 2/3 of the way down on the
Yeah,
front page.
I,
If you want to hit it,
no,
go
no,
ahead.
you go ahead.
So, you know, what he talked about was, what was it been encountered in other communities, I wouldn't have considered, to be honest with you, is they are getting active requests
Yes.
for private events. And I'll give you just the general umbrella example of a wedding,
Yeah,
right? Like, are you going to allow that type of, I don't want to use the word rental, but reservation activity? If so, what is the protocol for that, which you'll see at the top, it kind of ties in with some of these special events, private event permission. That even locally speaking, in his experience with helping Jackson open theirs, they came encounter with it they would have never anticipated. But what is, you know, is it as simple as, we don't allow that because of schedules and staffing, or we do allow that, but here is well, even the parameters with which we can. I'm stumbling and stammering a lot.
No,
because
you're
I feel
not,
like every
because-
time I talk, there's something else I remember
yeah, I
from
know,
that
that's
specific
the trouble,
conversation.
is we were bombarded with so many issues that were like, oh, we like that one, we like that one.
No issues, just
Yeah.
opportunities.
But he's right, you know, do you, in your protocol specifically say, we're not gonna do any wedding parties, no political events, no, you know,
I think
that,
part of
that
it,
we just have to, you know, that has to go into protocol, which, by the way,
we already.
he has some,
Go Go ahead, you're right, go ahead, go
some
ahead.
resources that he can get from all these other places that he's done.
As templates.
Yeah, and we wouldn't be reinventing the wheel.
Well, and it should certainly dovetail into what we already have. We haven't talked about it in a long time, but even within the parks, I think this would have been while moving out, we're still here. We literally at one point had the KKK request
Well,
to use one of the parks, so we have already a list of some of the stuff that's
Yeah.
permitted. And to me, regardless of whether it's the park or the amphitheater back here, those type of things have to carry through as well.
And you have a
We're not
great-
gonna allow
you have a-
political rallies.
Yeah, you have the no solicitation clause for all the parks, which we can delve into deeper down the road. You have, no political, et ceteras, no direct sales pitch type things. We have that template. He just mentioned other things, the wedding stuck in my mind, but there was probably a list, Scott, and I'm not kidding you, of a dozen, I
Yeah.
wanna say, that he rattled off the top of his head, that you're like, oh, yeah. So I think we just wanted to bring it to your attention, so as we started chewing on this,
Yes,
everybody might go, well, I'm thinking of this based on this, so we just didn't wanna leave it in the dark and not mention it. The other thing he mentioned, I know has been a topic of conversation even in early work sessions with us all, is branding, and I say that from a logo standpoint, to a sponsorship package standpoint, to a separate domain standpoint, to a separate website standpoint, to obviously the elephant in the room, the naming rights standpoint. All those can be grouped into one, but also be separate.
I'm gonna just claim right now, Lisa and I are already gonna take sponsorship, because we've already been doing some research into that, knowing there's a potentially interested party, so.
The naming rights.
Yeah.
But if he has,
But he has sponsorship
Contacts for
packages for other
sponsorships.
pieces, I mean,
well, absolutely.
Yeah, go-
I mean, there's other components to this.
you can sponsor the Commanders, you can sponsor the Fire Pitch, you can sponsor,
Yeah,
it can be the Scott Hawes Amphitheater at the Eric Williams stage, you know what I mean? Like, you can break that down, like,
Wouldn't it be the Eric Williams stage at the Scott Hawes Amphitheater? Amphitheater's the grander.
yeah, and he
And a
keeps.
picture of two bald guys.
Right, he keeps us out of jail, I'm gonna go with the way I did it. But there are ways you can break down those types of things so that you can do that, but he has experience in developing those specific packages per the venue to offer the ROI for the investors and the ability to recoup from the owner side of things. So it was really interesting to sit down and talk about his different experiences in developing those packages. So we just simply wanted to mention that as,
yeah.
something that, while naming rights might be a piece of that, I think there's certainly lots of other areas to consider.
Well, and again, everything on this list dovetails and
Into something
integrates into something else. That's why there was no order we could put these in. It's just something, let's just follow it and then all our thoughts about it. Diversity of genre, for example, it's like he said, you're gonna get, if you do a country western group, this time, he said, there's gonna be a group of people that are gonna want a Frank Sinatra or.
Steinberg's
Yeah.
mandatory staff in every
Yeah,
country.
or symphony, or, and he had some interesting thoughts on that, but we'll get to that. So diversity of genre.
Well, it's funny you
obviously
mentioned
is-
that, Brooke, I'm
Yeah,
glad you
how
said
do you
that.
do that?
So she said, hopefully not rap because
Yeah,
of some
how-
of the language in the
yeah,
music,
how
and
do
he
we
actually addressed that.
Yeah, because we talked about it.
That's why the diversity of genre is on there, because he actually delved into the idea of, you can still do an R&B, a rap group, so long as they're vetted with their demos and things the right way, because pitch, sound, volume, bass, as well as lyrical content
Yeah,
can
that-
all go
yeah.
into
Would
a
agree.
discussion where you could attract
In the
that type of
protocol.
audience
Okay.
in a
Already
Yeah.
written into the protocol.
contract.
Yes.
Yeah, because I wanted one of that kind of language.
So I just,
Oh, no, we discussed that right away. It's
Well,
like-
and keep in mind,
I
he
wouldn't read
ran,
that.
Yeah,
you'll know this,
Yeah.
he ran a live at Atwood. So when he talked about
yeah,
the informational packet to the people around, the stakeholders around that lake, because obviously sound bounces off of water, as he explained, and things of that nature. The diversity of genre plays right into that. The festival type of atmosphere versus a symphony quintet of strings or whatever
Oh, yeah.
play into that, because it's all different types of entertainment that can provide a still maximum ROI for foot traffic. So he kept hitting on the point of, no matter what you do, you should utilize somebody that has the ability in the ear to vet that type of entertainment, to make sure it's quality,
Yeah.
and to make sure that that type of entertainment is suitable to the environment you're trying to create back here, both holistically as well as with each event.
It sounds like he's the guy, at least, I mean, the whole, whenever it opens, is pretty much gonna be a soft launch for the year. I know I was invited to Jackson's soft launch that you guys talked about, it was the same thing, they got the stakeholders in afterwards to talk about what went right, what went wrong, what could be better. But, you know, could potentially open mid-July, so we really just have something in July, I mean, it's up to the board, do you want, we gotta tell this guy, do you want one concert a month? And then fill in with all these other things, do you
Like
want two,
budget.
that's how we'll come up with a budget, then if he says, well, that's gonna cost this much, then we can go okay, let's cut this, or cause we don't know what the budget is, we don't know what this all costs, but to me, the next logical step is to get this guy on board, because all of these things that we didn't know about need done. And I think that's what Jackson did, but this again is only a half year, so I don't know how much we'll learn, but then after so long, they hired somebody. Or maybe this is the guy, because honestly, he said, my price is this, I'll document every minute, John told me I'll document every minute, I'm quick, I'm efficient.
And his years of experience cut down on a lot of that extra calling. He could target based on the budget and the expectation. I'll use the word as example. The board says, we want this. He could target that expectation, that budget, and that time frame, and fill it pretty efficiently because of the experience of working with so many different genres, bands, experiences, venues, etc.
Because we don't know, I mean, do you want in July, you know, a soft launch, but and then in August, do you want one concert and then fill in with kids and programming and, you know, other smaller things, or do you want it a bi-weekly, or, I mean, those are kind of things that,
Right out of the gate seems a little.
we were thinking
Intense,
one,
but
we were
but I do
thinking,
think a variation of
yes,
all the different, well,
yeah,
a number of different things. So we
Yes.
can experience
Yes.
that first year. So hey, if it's only one or two, you know, fitness related, and it's honestly one or two concerts.
and then the kids stuff, and then the school will fill in nicely.
And he did say that.
Yeah.
He said to us, and he emphasized it on more than one occasion. You don't want a full slate even for a half a year. You want a couple to get your feet wet, to get your experience down, and to understand how you need to approach it for a full season. He even said, like, I'll give you a prime example.
Unreal.
Vox Audio opened at Holiday at the Square, if you guys remember, on the Kempthorne stage. And he said somebody like that locally that's got a great reputation and a good sound is a perfect form of a soft open to get it started.
Right.
And then he said, and he applauded, that's why he said stuff like Outback Jack with the animals and the kids programming there,
Mhm.
yoga in the park on Saturdays, and if the NCY, and I'm just throwing out names so I know we have meetings here, if the NCY said, hey, we'd like to do children's movement classes at noon during the week, and the Stark Library said, we'd like to do this, and then the partner said, hey, we did, Lisa mentions it all the time, Disney at the Docks over in Jackson, let's do one
Yeah,
here.
I do look at,
Yeah.
we're meeting with the partners because I do look at the Royal Docks, you know, over in Jackson at their own place, not at the Jackson Amphitheater. I mean, Royal Docks in Jackson, they sponsor, you know, Disney on the Docks, and they have an opera singer on Sundays. They have a bunch of stuff. That's why we want to meet with them, because we do the same thing here, and that's programming that doesn't cost us. But to me, the first big decision, and you guys can talk decisions at the special meetings, if there's no resolution, is to get this guy on board, because he's got the skill set.
This is
And
pretty simple in my mind.
But it is, but just things to ponder,
Yeah.
because we'll
Yeah,
circle back to
But if you can
this.
get the foundational work and
But what is that? Is that the, you want the basic branding packages he's worked on in the past? Do you want just the 2 or 3 acts? Do you want,
well, I think
Yeah.
we need, I think
we're gonna do the whole.
the whole
I mean,
package is my point.
We want him
Yeah,
to
it's
create
all-
the web. He created Jackson's Amphitheater website. We want that. I can't create it. You can't create it.
I mean, he can do it all, or he can do one or none. He said it depends on what you want. That's the only reason I'm emphasizing it. I'm not saying.
Let's realistically ask, how how many people on this team are in-house have the expertise?
Hell no.
I'm not saying just
Yeah.
knowledge, the expert.
Well, you already put down our singing ability, we
Yeah.
don't.
Well, is a trio.
Yeah.
It's a trio, I wasn't speaking individually. It's a-
Brooke will be the Disney on the docks.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And Lisa and I said 1,000 times, we aren't
This,
the
this
experts.
is out of our wheelhouse as far
I
as
think
getting
it behooves
groups
us,
and
because
getting,
the reality is, if we get to the point where we're like, okay, this is going too far down the rabbit hole,
Yeah.
we can
Yep.
pull
Oh,
back, we can
absolutely.
pull back.
and John, it sounded like he was willing to do that, like he wanted to work from what you told me, John,
I
at however
honestly
you guys
think-
like.
If we get him on board and after we have met with these other people
Mhm.
to hear some things back from them,
Yeah.
we sit down with him and say, remember, baby steps, baby steps.
Mhm.
We're gonna have about 4 to 5 months in this year that we would like to do those baby steps.
Mhm.
How do we proceed?
Yeah,
Do we
and
know
how
what
do
he
we,
spent
how do
on-
we launch the
Yeah, so-
amphitheater website and all of that
Yeah,
stuff?
Mark.
Like,
And market,
You
and
basically
this
charge-
is his wheelhouse.
He charged Jackson the same, I think.
yeah, but how much did they spend? for something?
75,000, but they did it differently, well, it was
Yeah.
$75 an hour, but they did it differently, because their whole goal was basically a double concert series. It was a free concert in the farmer's market on Thursdays, and a full-on paid concert series from
Ticket
basically May
taking, all of that, and
into
And
September,
he,
so that's gonna be a more
he did their
expensive
whole,
bill.
I know
for
from
us.
Jackson, he did their whole Eventbrite, like he
Yeah.
managed all the tickets and we're not there, we're not there.
No,
That's what I'm
I
wondering, how
still-
much we spent on.
Yeah.
I'm still very much, I don't wanna put my cart before the horse on this, but like, these are taxpayer dollars that are already going into this structure back here. For us to pull a Jackson and say, oh, hey, we're essentially gonna put a fence around, we're gonna charge for everything, that's a slap in the face, cause at the end of the day, it's federal debt that's been issued to local communities that we're all,
Comes somewhere,
on the hook for. So, okay,
Well,
not only do I
Scott-
have to pay for it, but now I've gotta pay, and that's where I think leaning into the sponsorships,
And he needs
Oh,
to.
absolutely.
that's.
because as a part of that budget, I think what we need to think about, can't make a decision on it now, but we need to think about what would be the maximum taxpayer dollars that we would want to channel into this overall event, that all these people that sent back that survey for the mini master plan said, we want this, we want this, we want this, realizing that some of those are absolutely impossible. We're never gonna be able to accommodate. But let's face it, we have a splash pad that we have a certain amount of bill that we can't get around a water bill. I mean, so we're channeling money out for that particular resource, if you will, or that accommodation that I'm seeing that we're gonna have to kind of do something here. Whether that is the use of our employees, coordination efforts, how we take a look at, okay, we're going after sponsors, so we will decide, here's the group that we want to come in, yada, yada, yada. But I think we're gonna see other people get on board that is gonna help with that. Now, I did throw one thing out, and again, this guy talked a lot about alcohol, okay? So there are a lot of moving pieces and parts here that deal with alcohol. It's like you said, you're gonna do faith-based things, for example. And faith-based things draw nothing. So the question is, if you do get a request for something faith-based, is the door gonna be open? Or
It's
is it
open.
not gonna be open?
It's always, the way it's set up is it's always
And-
open regardless.
And I can't see
No,
one-offs.
but, I mean, obviously, if it's Catholic, they'll love it.
Correct. Right,
Southern Baptist.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
yeah.
But,
Plus you can make the choice
so-
to go get it or not
so
from a
you have to
restaurant.
think about that and how the DORA is gonna be incorporated, but what if we wanted to do one fundraising event where we said, hey, the door's not gonna be open? And again, I don't know the logistics for this, but what if we created the possibility of the sale of alcohol and the proceeds that came off of that goes back into the next
I
event.
full F permit.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, I think pulling an F
There are
permit,
special- there's
you,
special
we could
permit.
pull an
Yeah,
F
you get a
permit.
That's
permit.
kind of nonprofit.
And
Get
we
a
could-
permit, you fence
we
it
could-
off, you
We
know,
could
there's,
do that, but I don't know about closing the door.
yeah.
But
Well,
I think if people are at our event and we're right there, they're not gonna walk, they're gonna come.
And
But
I'm
those are
not
just
even
things to think about.
suggesting that we do right
Yeah.
now, I'm just saying, we need to be thinking about whether that's even worth pursuing or
And
not.
can I
And
go
remember,
back?
Grant Gills is talking about building an outbuilding
So he's not too worried about the Dora.
for, he said that he'd let, well, he was gonna let like Royal Dock
Yeah.
sell from there, and then if we, Urban Crate, who's gonna take turns with them going in there,
Sure.
I guess, but I said, we might wanna turn where, we get the permit and the money goes to sponsorships, or maybe everybody who's in
Like
yours
that.
gives, a percentage back towards,
I was certain on the whole F permit thing, that requires proceeds to go to a nonprofit.
yep, nonprofit.
Nonprofit, so that's where potentially Heroes Honor, now, is it?
Or is the Friends of Park nonprofit still
No,
open?
no.
Well, that's where our
It's
trio
all-
comes in,
What's
our
that?
township trio.
Yeah.
Now we are nonprofit.
Hey, I just wanted to double back to something you mentioned about the Jackson Space of Difference here, and I think the reason Bill Graining is so enthused about it, and we're getting such positive feedback, and we're meeting with these partners about these programs is, to your point, somebody said just 7 or 8 minutes ago about not fencing it in, and I think what we're getting the feedback of, John, if I'm wrong, step on me here, but people were thrilled to see that we have direct access in
Yeah.
and out of here in free-flowing manner to the restaurants in the stuff. And I think even Lisa mentioned this morning during the meeting, the whole point of this is accessing the
Yeah, the
door.
way it got
He was-
approved from ARPA was
Yeah.
because it's promoting and helping the businesses.
He was super excited about this venue.
Because of what it
super
offers
excited.
all the way around.
Exactly, the entire pieces and parts. And when he found out that we were going to, this was gonna be the green room facilities, he said, man, that's a million times better than Jackson.
I guess
He
there's.
said they have one basically
bench.
concrete room, and that's it.
That cost
Where-
200,000.
If you have, let's say you have the three.
He said it was
band.
basically the width of the bench.
They wanna warm up a little bit,
Yeah.
they wanna, and they don't wanna do it in a concrete room.
Yeah,
So, all I said was, okay, that's perfect, but in looking things over, we may wanna replace this door, for example, with a keypad on the outside, so that,
they gotta
we
get
do
in
it-
and out.
Yeah, they get in and out, and we don't have somebody here, security, watching them go in and out, they know how they can get in and out.
And that code
Uh,
changes.
That's
You
what I was
know,
gonna say, does
yeah.
it
It's just
change
like,
so that
Oh,
we can
absolutely.
actually
With a
change?
swipe card.
that,
Yeah.
that event stops and it's
Yeah.
over, I don't wanna
And then,
be giving
and
people
then,
swipe
the
cards.
restrooms that we have, we may have to go with a bigger mirror and, just stuff like that, those are easy fixes, but
But
they're
stuff
just
we never
things
thought
that.
of.
No, we never would have thought
So
of.
you can get a $20 floor length mirror and tape on the
Absolutely,
wall.
But
exactly.
he did say, booking starts in February, that's where the push was. So
Yeah,
if Rob could reach out to him and say, yeah, what you presented, we like, we're looking at a naming sponsorship, but sponsorships, the website, the forms, the booking, we're looking at, it sounded like, I don't wanna speak for the board, one quality concert a month, but we're gonna fill in with,
Local programming.
well, no, not just local, he's got the Outback, whoever, and he may have
Yeah.
some other things, and we'll fill in with that too. So,
Not-
I mean,
not-
we
not-
don't want it to just be functioning one day a week and everybody goes, why the hell did you build a
That
music
was
here?
I apologize.
We'll just say
So-
non-musical.
there you go.
Yes, not musical. Or it could be something small from the symphony, like the woodwind section, or,
They said they have a strings quintet that costs basically $700 for I think 3 or 4 hours. And
They said you won't believe the amount of people that'll come to listen to that.
yeah, and I've spoken with the.
and he mentioned a Sinatra guy, I'm like, you
Yeah,
can
he
do
said-
Sinatra Sundays
yeah,
in
he
the
said-
afternoon.
This
They
guy-
did the strings quartet, my son was in it for a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
And
was
we
in a
wanna
big
book
in
those
jazz
types of
band.
groups, but it sounds like, one concert a month.
Yeah, so
But
they're,
we do wanna fill in good with not just community, but we want ideas from him, the Outback Jack, when should we do that, or whatever his name is, and what else is it? I don't even know what I'm talking about, I mean, I don't know these acts.
all right, so we'll kinda keep moving, cause we We only have about 20 minutes here, so one of the other things that he discussed was, he said, work with the school district, which we brought up to them, by the way, today, that one of the suggestions was, you know, classes do reunions every year. And he said, if somehow you could coincide their class reunion with some kind of event that you would do out here, you take 30-somethings that are coming back to a reunion and know they can all walk around in a casual environment, listening to music, drinking beer and everything else. I mean, it would be perfect for that kind of thing. And it's only gonna happen once a year for the most part, unless, you know, somebody from Central or St. Thomas or,
And he
you
did,
know, who knows?
He did warn us, as we get into this process, you're gonna get every Tom, Dick, and Harry with a tape.
Yeah,
He said, what he would suggest is have him send it to me and me forward to him the,
Yeah.
that way he's the
Yeah.
one saying no.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just
already
not a fit.
happening
Yeah.
with cards and
Oh,
there's people we have no
absolutely.
idea.
Yeah, they wanna
We're
sell
gonna
us-
band and we're
yeah.
there.
So that was one thing. He said another thing, coincide with festivals. You know, you may, and when we meet with the plaza, I know one thing they were talking about was some super big car show or something. And, you know, I mean, you could do something where you have a whole weekend. And, you know, you do some on Friday and you do some on Saturday.
Yeah.
Now,
And
that's
even-
not gonna happen very often, but it is a possibility for changing things up
Mhm.
in how you wanna do it.
Even the Hall of Fame, when they used to have, well, they changed it last year, which wasn't that great, but when they had their festival, it'd be nice to coincide with some music,
Mhm.
even Winterfest, whatever it's called, Holiday
Mhm.
Square.
We will need sound engineers.
Yeah, we talked about this in the construction meeting with our sound people, and they do contracts
Yeah.
where
Yep.
I don't know if that's something we can learn. On the bigger concerts, you want a sound engineer. But when we first start, we're gonna need them to come in, teach, show, help.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it can be in our scope or not, that's to be seen, but he said all amphitheaters contract. Not him, Justin and our sound people were telling us that,
Okay,
so.
so we are gonna meet with the partners in the plaza to discuss those issues. And, you know, I mean, in reality, if we could somehow come to something where we can lock in a percentage that comes off of the DORA to go into, the next group that we bring in, you know, that's, again, it benefits them as much as it benefits us.
I don't know that we can do that. We can ask in lieu of them to sponsor some things.
That's my point,
Yeah.
is however we can do it legally, we
Yeah.
just say, look, we have, at some point in time, we're gonna need seat money.
Yeah,
And this is the only way we can do it. So,
And
even
we-
if it's a small percentage, but it's done over 3 or 4 events, you know,
It's
it's,
part of that that needs to be baked in somehow, just the pure operational maintenance
Yep.
upkeep piece of it.
well, yeah, cause we're gonna
Yeah,
have,
your act's $10, but guess what? Tickets are I'm just,
oh
the
no,
mechanism, tickets are $15 because
Yeah.
$5 each ticket. You know what, by the time it's post cleanup, or there's maintenance on sound system stuff, to whatever it may be.
well, here's what we know. We're gonna have a gas bill, we're gonna have an electric bill, we're gonna have a water bill, and we don't even know what those are yet.
that's where your trio comes in.
So, yeah,
We better work on.
so, yeah, we
full
can,
ranges.
you know, hold a rally that, you know, we run around a parking lot with a bucket.
Right?
Well, then tonight after we say the Pledge of Allegiance, we're gonna go right into the national anthem as our
Yes.
first pass.
Led by Brooke, you guys back her up.
Yeah, all right, I'll just move my lips.
I'm gonna just go ahead and forward that on
Yeah.
to Bill. I'll let him know you know.
All right, so, we already talked a little bit about festivals, youth festivals,
What's NC?
jazz festivals.
North Camp Lions.
Yeah,
Okay.
or Can't Why, we haven't met with them yet, and we haven't met with the people from the plaza yet.
Camp Wise on the 27th.
I think what they'll happily do is sponsor, I'm hoping, bring in some of the quality entertainment that they have been offering within their walls. we'll see.
So I think for the most part, I mean, this actually did exactly what we wanted it to do. We kind of threw a bunch of stuff out there that people can be thinking about, but everybody's gonna take a piece of this. I think,
So, to go back to that though, is there a way to segment any of these into work streams where there's?
oh, I think
certain
there
areas
is,
are allowed?
absolutely, yes.
And I don't know, I
Yep.
would say I'd jump in, get right after, but the work's not gonna allow that. Identify the work streams, and then once we know the work streams, okay, Brooks lead on this, John's lead on
Yep.
this, Scott's, and then we work with the respective township staff
Yeah.
or whatever.
And I
Whatever.
think Bill can help us create some of those things so that we're staying on track and moving forward.
And that's very likely, probably, I mean, $75 an hour. Just to be like, okay, these five.
I mean, he
here's-
literally ran
So-
through an entire template of structure, infrastructure, protocols, and practices that, like, I don't think we could keep up with. If I'm wrong, John, tell me, but that's something, that when you bring him on board, he could streamline that, push that back out to us, and we could help.
And he's already got the templates done, let's face it, so he's not starting from scratch. He already knows how to do the website, we're not starting from
So we're not
scratch.
starting
We're getting
$75
somebody
an hour.
who,
to
this
get
is their
that
specialty, this
research,
is what
right?
they do to get us going.
So what's his title again?
He used to own his own business doing this, he sold it, but he's still doing
We've been
this.
trying to meet with him for 3 months, but he was in the
He
middle of
was selling
selling
his
his
business.
business.
Yeah,
He
he's-
couldn't talk to us.
Yeah.
All right,
So,
does that give
do-
you direction?
do we
Or-
need,
I
do
will-
do we need a resolution to hire him? Or
Yes.
simply put that on the agenda, let's do it this way? We'll get back to him, do the informal work, say, hey, give us something
Uh-huh,
that
for
we
the
can
next-
have in front of us, that we can say, okay,
We're
based on
hiring you.
this information, we're gonna hire this guy. And
Essentially is bill of service.
Exactly.
Service.
he may even have an existing contract
He
for all
does,
I
he
know, so.
already
Probably
said,
does.
he already has an
Probably
existing
does.
contract, we can tell him exactly what we're looking for, he'll present that contract, we can pass by resolution at the next meeting.
Yeah, and,
Is that what you want me to do?
yeah,
Yes.
and by
Yeah,
then,
we did it before then, yeah.
yeah, by then, we will have met with, our Plaza partners, North Canton Y.
Scott, I know John Brooks said yes, I will reach out to him tomorrow, assuming the board's on the page, say, get us your contract, we'll present a
That's what I was
resolution
just
to the next
telling
meeting.
her, asking Lisa, because if she has the one-off conversations with us, are you good with this or not? We don't even need to wait till the next meeting so you can start feeding some of that stuff.
Yeah, the board's, I can sign
Because
that contract.
if you're talking February, this is the first meeting in June, so now we're to the 24th.
I'm fine with
I
that.
see, I am too, that's why I kinda like this format, where we hit all the bullet points. Now, if you need to do something, you're gonna say,
Why don't you do a
Well-
resolution right now?
Why don't you just say that what you're agreeing to do right now in this special meeting is pending review of this guy's contract by me and by Lisa. You would agree to it so long as it's okay with us, and we
And
already know what the
authorizing you to
numbers are.
sign.
So now it's just a term issue, contractual
So
term.
why don't you do that resolution tonight? It's a public, we're at a public meeting.
Yeah, if time's an issue for you, you can do that.
Then I can reach back out to him, he can present it, they can look at it,
So for,
and then go from there.
I mean, are you talking about making this a verbal into the record right now?
Yeah.
Well, how about I say, I'll make a motion, you
Sure.
speak what needs to
Yes.
be done.
Sure.
And then
yeah, there you go.
That's fine.
I'm going to make a motion per Law Director Eric Williams.
To enter into the contract with
Bill Graining.
this gentleman, Bill, I'm sorry?
Graining, Greaning.
For the services that we've
G-R-A-N-I-N-G.
discussed here today, pending a review of that contract by me for legal sufficiency and by Lisa for content. But you do agree based on the terms he's already outlined in the letter that's part of the record of this meeting,
Second,
Second,
to authorize me
second,
to
roll.
sign
and authorize Lisa to sign.
the contract.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes,
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Thank you very much, I'll stop the recorder for a couple minutes.
okay.
Well, you got
Yeah, I'll, make a motion to adjourn at 5:50.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Nice work.
Perfect,
That
yeah,
was
that's what I
so